Dungeon Doomhands. Let's talk
As ready as I'm
lore.
gonna be.
A podcast.
All right, and we're definitely live. This should be a fun one.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
hey, welcome back to Let's Talk Lore. Let's see, what number is this one, Chris? This will be
9.
10. Yeah, remember we started doing
10.
3 because we're going to do the one NPC at the end. And we'll do an NPC from Trigard because this time our focus on our world building topics is going to be based around world building and building a city. So in our campaign that we are homebrewing, slowly but surely growing this campaign that's playable, by the way, it's pretty cool. We have a town, or actually it's rather a city, most advanced city in our little world that we have. It's known as Trigard. That's it. That's all we have. That's literally it. There are some themes to it, but that's basically it. So I feel like growing this city in front of people will be pretty cool.
Well, there are some story hooks in the campaign that draw to Trigard, so we have some framework to work with.
Yeah, well,
but not much.
I like to sometimes just drop little things that could interest people to go places as the DM, you're slowly building. You want a little hooks to pull people in.
Yeah.
But there's no real. I don't know if there's a real draw there yet. There's no real person to go see, I don't think. But we just know that it's the most advanced. Oh, the one dwarf that we ran in the underground. So I feel like I'm gonna write down dwarves. The dwarf was having a debate with a sky dwarf about the world being flat, but that has nothing to do with Trigard. Although it could have potential to do with Trigard, and the fact that maybe it's just that Trigard's full of dwarves. Dwarves are going to be a heavy population there.
The NPC we built last time was a dwarf from Trigard.
Yes, indeed.
That fits well.
Yeah, I think so. Trigard.
We wanted to start talking about who lives in Trigard, the people of Trigard.
Let's pull up the map. So I created this map using Wonderdraft, which is an awesome app for this stuff. So I started out building this campaign. We started in the forest. We went to the desert. I'm just putting my mouse over it, but you can't see it. I just realized. I'll just zoom in here. Trigard is going to be this large city, and I got to zoom way in. It's labeled there right next to the mountains. And Trigard is called Trigard simply because the people there are guarding what they have from the sea, from the sky, and from the mountains. Now, I had planned that the mountains would be some type of have some sort of quests when you get there, but I don't really know exactly how to get there. But that's a dungeon master's goal is to have all these quests and these side quests that you eventually work out. But I just wanted to point something out on the map. Trigard, and I did want Trigard, and the dwarves are nice to have in there. I wanted Trigard to have a relationship, to sort of be the, not necessarily a access point. Well, no, it is an access point, but not like a physical access point, but more of like the portal, the technological portal to the Underdark. So when you see here on the map of the Underdark, I've laid out that there's the Upper Dark, Middle Dark, and Lower Dark. Now these are going to change. My maps always change when I use this Wonderdraft thing. It's quite awesome. But you'll notice that the shape of the Underdark sort of resembles the shape of the area above. So the Upper Dark, where we're at, right underneath this mountain plain, I've already put some Trigard equipment that's been used to travel down. So they do what we know so far is the place is called Trigard. For whatever reason, they are guarding themselves from the sea, and that's going to be because of the Kraken. Now, whether or not the people know that the Kraken is dead, we'll we'll figure that out when we get there. They're guarding themselves from the sky, which has something to do with the sky dwarfs, and also from the mountain. So there's something in the mountain that they're afraid of. But they're not afraid of underneath. They're not afraid of the Underdark, and I think that you're gonna find that they get their wealth from the ground, from their trade port to the ground. So I think that the people above, a lot of people on the upper level, I guess, what do you call it? If you call it the Underdark, what would the Underdark?
The material plane.
The material plane. The people on the material plane, whether or not they might not even know about the Underdark, but the people on the material plane will probably view Trigard as some sort of mass trade port, which is why it's so rich and technologically advanced. And they probably just think it's because of the ships and stuff. And maybe some of them know about the sky, but actually, another point, Trigard collects trades from the sea, from the sky, from the ground. So that's why it's so technologically advanced, which is cool. But that's all. I mean, that's the lore behind it. Now, I don't know. There's no like mayor or king we've set up or anything like that.
No, but putting that idea is a great way to think about what the city is going to be doing, like how the city is going to be functioning.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Well, the city is going to be a main trade hub for like the entire material plane and connecting down to the Underdark and up to the sky, and so there's going to be a lot of trade through there. So a lot of transportation and large hauling and storage facilities and businesses associated with it. So think of any major like port city in our world, but just scaled up.
I'd like to think of to get a visual on this from like our sci-fi movies. Like I'm thinking like I love New Hope. The bar, where's that bar in New Hope? You know, the sand in Star Wars, the sand level where they had all the bars. I forgot the name of it. Everyone's gonna hate that I don't know the name. And then you have the advanced technological city in like the prequels. But I would imagine it's going to be like advanced technological city, as advanced as you can get. When I say technology, I mean like there's going to be a bunch of Warforged. We've sort of had a little conversation about how I feel like the Warforged people are going to be from there, developed there. Now you guys had previously flown a ship in the campaign through the air, got attacked by sky pirates who happened to be Warforged, skull-seeking sky pirates, which is awesome.
Yep.
I think those might be from. So there's a hook there. Who sent those guys to you? You guys might find out. We were at Sky Pirates down because that's cool. But in terms of like, yeah, I think you're right. I think that's cool. I think like a lot of happening.
And with that, talking about the Warforged and Sky Pirates, and also the history of that town is they're guarding themselves from all these different places. So in my mind thinks of that, I think of they're very protected, like they're making sure that this trade is a secure place to buy and sell your wares and transport goods from those different places. So maybe the entrance to it, like you have a big wall around the city, maybe it's a very militaristic encampment of you have to go through heavy security to get through, and there's a lot of security around throughout the entire place and through the transport.
I was thinking the Underdark, the more I read about the Underdark, traveling from, I do want you guys to eventually go, or at least have the opportunity to travel from the upper dark to the middle dark to the lower dark. And the more I read about that, yeah, you can try to walk it. Some of them say it's like four from the material plane downward, it would be like 4 to whatever miles, and then you have another 10 miles to the, or like another 7 miles, and then there's like a ridiculously long, and you also have to realize that the further you go down there, more, and the closer you get, the time and space sort of separate. You eventually reality sort of gets
weird stuff starts to happen.
Yeah, which is why that Easter egg is on that map. But what I'm trying to say is, when I was reading this, like, how do you transport without having, like, you're going 4 miles through the Underdark, and that's just 4 miles. That's not even going to get you anywhere. You're going to have a lot of encounters. So I would imagine you're going to have like three sessions of just traveling with these weird encounters that are going to be really cool. There's going to be people hunting, weird people, lost people, crazy people. You guys might just get lost. It might be longer. I think that portals, and I read that too, portals is a big way of traveling.
Well, you already introduced that into the Underdark anyway.
And I had the idea that the gnomes were not as well. They gnomes and dwarves were sort of overlapped in their technologies. Putting them together, both of them together, made for a good portal. Something of each party brought together down there makes for a good portal, but to be able to discern which one's gnome and which one's dwarf, because if you go to a portal that's just a dwarf, it might zap you to somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I always wanted to have that type of trick in there, and I hope you were able to play that without ruining for everyone. But
I'm a satyr, so doesn't matter what I'm going into.
Perhaps these portals are made in Trigard, and somehow.
Well, my thought is, like, if the dwarves contacted some society in the Underdark, so maybe there are some gnomes or deep gnomes who lived in the Underdark underneath where Trigard is, and so like their interaction is, the deep gnomes have a city in the upper dark, directly below Trigard, and it's their interaction between the two of them that you see that intermix of technology and cooperation between them to make it flourish.
Symbiosis.
Yeah. Like the dwarves work better in the interior plane, deep gnomes better down there, better contacts.
They don't like each other, though. They don't, but they have to work together because of deep gnomes need water. The dwarves need their technology, or the dwarf needs their like crystal or something like that to protect
their technology
from the Kraken, because the Kraken from the sea,
Yeah, well, they found the crystals from the gnome area powers their technology and supercharges it.
Yeah,
and they're very militaristic up there for all the security, so they need all of the crystal because they're constantly depleting it.
Yep. And their threat from the Kraken and their threat from above, whatever is above, which is just
the Sky Dwarves. They can maybe have a dispute with the Sky Dwarves.
Well, the Sky Dwarves. I had a idea that the elephants were from the sky, and the elephants and the Sky Dwarfs. This is going off topic, but
it works.
I wanted to bring the topic of the world is round versus flat into the game. I'm gonna force that topic one way or another. But the Sky Dwarfs feel one way, and the elephants feel another way, and there's a big war, almost a war breaking out. I feel like the Sky Dwarfs will be some sort of descendants from Trigard. Perhaps the relationship between the gnomes giving the portals allowed them to transport up. I have no idea.
Or the technology that we just gave, what's his name? Naglin made that transmission up from where we are now to Trigard to allow them to have sky ships and fly up into the clouds. There's your...
Oh, wow. Okay, so for those of you who don't know and haven't been following along in the story on YouTube, the boys in the Actually, it's on YouTube. The guys were traveling on a boat, and I just rolled a random dice for random encounter from this like cool table I just found online. And one of the random encounters was the boat crashes into a wall that is painted like the sea, just like the Truman Show, and the door opens up. And it was so cool. That's where we ended. So it gave me a bunch of time to like figure out how to do a dungeon. So I had a big dungeon. It was really cool. It was 2 sessions long. And at the very end, I had to find a blueprint for a map to make a spaceship, some sort of flying ship. I wanted it to be a spaceship so they could go to a moon. Because I felt like the mind flayers are sort of aliens from they might have settled on the moon before coming there. Anyway, they just went back in time. Now we're talking like 30 sessions later. Maybe not 30 sessions. It's more like 15 sessions. And they went back in time on a time heist and handed someone these blueprints, which is really cool. Good idea, Chris. I'm impressed. You know what? If we were playing, I'd give you 1 cool point.
But I will happily take inspiration.
Where are we? Right? No inspiration for you. You know what? I'll give you inspiration. That was good. That was a good one. Okay, so then I feel like I think you're right. The city is a massive city. It's protected because it has all this wealth, and the wealth is not just like the material stuff, but it's also just the knowledge from what they've gathered deep down from under the ground. They're gathering knowledge from up in the sky, but also from the sea. And I feel like the threat from the sea isn't just felt from the Kraken coming, but it's also the people that come from the sea that are trying to hide. So I feel like there's going to be some pixies, some sort of.
Well, you're going to have some refugees through there from all the places.
There's going to be a lot of. There certainly is going to be a lot of. So there's going to be a lot of ties. I think a good way to run this might be when we get there is to maybe have an NPC built out for each of these locations. But that doesn't mean you necessarily have to build out each location, which you could. But just be prepared to do it. I like to be 50% prepared. I'm learning that 25% is probably better. We're 0, you know.
Well, we're still in the infancy of building out Trigar. We know what kind of city it is. I just took us on a random ass rabbit hole.
Oh, that's great.
To explain Sky Dwarves.
Trigard is a city. But the thing that I was reading online today, it said one of the things you want to do is, what's the city's purpose? The city's purpose is to gather.
It's a trade hub.
Yes, gather wealth and trade. And it's knowledge. I think it's knowledge. So there's got to be a lot of science and shit in there too.
So a massive library.
Yes, library's got to be.
So think of Candlekeep, like that size of that library is built into the massive underground complex that is Trigar.
And I feel like the trading of knowledge is huge. Trading of knowledge would be
knowledge is valuable.
So like what the gnomes get from above isn't just, water and sustenance, but it's also knowledge that couldn't be obtained anywhere else. So maybe their buildings down there will resemble something a little bit more put together than the other places. Now, I've separated that Trigard area from the mushroom forest and the dark nightmare area, the crystal plain. I don't know if those people are going to know that the Trigard Deep Gnome people even exist either. I have no idea. I'm certain that Underdark people, some places of the Underdark are not going to know of each other, but perhaps the Deep Gnomes will know more because of Trigard. But this is about Trigard, so Trigard will also know.
Pause 1 moment.
About it. Yeah, sure.
Unpause.
I think so. We got the purpose. It's a big trade hub. It's going to have a bunch of different. It's going to have the main city dwellers will be dwarves There's going to be there's got to be a hierarchy.
Well, I think you have dwarves and warforged as like the main grouping of people of the city, like the inhabitants. But you're also going to have a number of people from the sea, like you said. You're going to have deep gnomes.
Yes.
You're probably going to have some Loxodon in there.
And then there's probably going to be some mysterious mountain people. Maybe.
I was thinking, what about Yetis? Yetis up in the mountains.
So I was wondering what the mountain that'll be.
Because you have dragons elsewhere. You can have the mountains be wild.
Yeah, like giants too.
Yeah, it's like frozen tundra.
Oh yeah, they could be
craziness.
It's gonna be awesome. But the mountains are also up on a slope, so I had a big.
Well,
it's gonna be really cool.
You know how your reality gets warped in special areas, right? No, how like
I know.
Think of the reason why they protect themselves from the mountains. The mountains are some crazy unknown area. Think of in that short area on the map that looks like the mountains. If you walk it, it can stretch for years.
Oh yeah.
So you enter it and you may get lost in there forever.
So sort of like the forest we had. So that I just pulled up the map again. So sort of like the Artemisian forest where you went on and you could get lost. Maybe this one's a little bit more.
It could be more magically messed up and
right. Because
not just feel like a maze or a labyrinth, but like if you stretch out what that Arctic area is, it's maybe say 500 miles, and on the map it's compressed down into 5. But when you enter it, it's still 500.
And also another good idea is well, not another good idea, but just another layer to that. When I did the Artemisian Forest, you could go, I'd roll a random dice each time you went through. It was just a big dungeon, as I said before, and when you got to the end of the section, I rolled a dice, and it either was a straight dungeon with some sort of interaction or a cross. So you can, or sometimes a left or right or whatever. Maybe this time you add a vertical. That makes it more maze. So yeah, maybe it's like a massive maze. That's great.
Up and down.
Yeah.
Get deep crevasses.
So far in our Trigard discussion,
we talked about everything other.
Trigard.
We're helping define what Trigar is.
Right. And this is what happens. So,
well, we're defining who's going to be in there. So, yeah.
To wrap up this first section, Trigard is massive. It's got a lot of trade ports, trading up, down, left, right. It's trading everywhere, from everywhere, and it's probably going to be some like a social hub. This might be essentially a hub for a lot of what's going on in the world. Because I can't imagine that there's going to be a place that's more. Yes, it's going to be dangerous because you're going to have people there's going to be a hierarchy of poor and rich and stuff like that, but it's going to be a place where everyone, there's a lot of crossings. So there's going to be a lot of hooks. There should be some cool encounters built in there, but that's for the next session or maybe the section after. It's going to be awesome. So that's going to wrap up the first session. So Trigard, massive trade area. A lot of hooks going into the ground, to the sea, and to the sky.
Filled with dwarves, warforged, bunch of sea people, deep gnomes, Loxodon, wealth of knowledge.
Creators. Yeah, wealth of knowledge. Knowledge is a huge one. All right, we'll be back in 5, 10, maybe less than, to talk about buildings and stuff.